Kids have more confidence and they have better social skills if they have regular family meals. Studies have shown that your digestion is actually better. Number one, if you stop and pause and say grace before a meal. Number two,
Welcome to the Peak Life Show, a show all about living life to the fullest, or your peak life. Today's guest is Amanda Roweter. Amanda is a degreed nutritionist who founded her ministry, Temple and Table, in 2017 as a way to nourish our culture by drawing a connection between physical and spiritual health. Amanda is a regular contributor to CCL's Family Foundations magazine and also contributes to the lifestyle and nutrition area of the Fertility Science Institute. She wrote a cookbook titled Food for Fertility: Recipes to Improve Health and Manage PCOS, released last year. Amanda, thanks for joining us. Welcome, Amanda. We're super excited for you to be on the show today.
I'm excited too. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So first question, let's get to know you a little bit. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. As you said, I am a nutritionist and I have a nutrition ministry called Temple and Table. I launched Temple and Table in 2017 because I had a desire to really connect physical and spiritual health. And I just saw that it was incredibly powerful to gather people around a meal. So that's kind of the impetus or the inspiration behind it.
Awesome. So with the background in nutrition, was Temple and Table really the first thing that you started after that, or have you worked other places when it comes to nutrition?
My bachelor's is in nutrition, and then I have a master's in medical science with a concentration in women's health. I actually worked for the Women, Infants, and Children program, which, if people aren't familiar, it's basically a government-funded program similar to food stamps, but it's paired with healthy eating counseling, and specific foods are only included in it. And it's for pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and kids up to 5. It's still one of my favorite jobs I've ever had today, to this day. And when I was thinking about launching Temple and Table, it really was born out of me just wanting to live into my vocation more. I was running a medical clinic at the time and not doing as much with nutrition. And a great priest just kind of walked me through some discernment around how to live into my vocation more. And it kind of grew from there.
Wow, that's awesome. Love that you're able to use your gifts and your background, but to really serve from the heart. Wow. Awesome. So what was your introduction into becoming a nutritionist? Where did that passion kind of start for you?
I think I always was drawn to cooking. I was like this strange kid that would come home from after school and watch like the Food Network and cooking channels. And I really got into preparing my own meals in a real way when I got to college. And from there, I ended up switching my major to nutrition my junior year of college, and really just saw a great way to empower myself to choose foods that were healthy for me. And I just saw what a difference it made in how I felt day to day and my energy levels and all of that. And it just kind of grew from there. And then once I got into my classes, I thought, this is awesome, you know.
So you're a nutritionist. How did you kind of come about that passion? Was there something in childhood that kind of sparked that, or was it in college that you really decided that that was a path that you wanted to go down?
Yeah, so I always loved cooking. I was a weird kid that would come home from school and watch the Food Network or Cooking Channel instead of like cartoons or something. And then in college, I started to prepare meals for myself and ended up switching to nutrition my junior year as my major, and just really felt empowered, honestly, by making healthy choices for myself. And I also did notice a lot of changes in my energy, and I just thought, wow, this is a really practical way to apply what I was learning in science classes. So it just kind of grew from there.
So when it comes to Temple and Table, you said that that is kind of your nutrition ministry.
How did that get started? You spoke about, a priest kind of helping you along that discernment there of using your passions to help others. So what was that roadmap and journey like for you?
At the time when I spoke to the priest, I was running a medical clinic and I was doing not as much with it. Just felt like I wasn't living into my vocation the way that I wanted to. So I ended up running into this priest at a conference. We were already good friends and just expressed that I was feeling like I wanted to do more. He asked me a couple of questions. What are you passionate about? Where do you feel like you have gifts? And nutrition came up. I already really had a passion for that and had seen the power of also like cooking with friends and gathering with friends. And this idea of kind of evangelizing through the meal came about. And I just really saw how fostering, like preparing a meal and having just like breaking bread, basically, um, allowed people to go much deeper in conversation if you were intentional about it. And I just thought, what a beautiful opportunity to evangelize. And people are really, they get really excited now about like trying to be healthier. And it's just such a hot button thing that people are they're naturally gravitating towards. And our spiritual health is so tied to our physical health. So it's just a great opportunity.
Yes, I could not agree more. I love that you said that because we are a body and soul, right? We
Right.
can't separate them. And so talk to us about because I think I can guess how temple and table the name came to be about. Obviously, body being a temple and everything.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about the name and then what temple and table provides.
I wanted it to basically feel like an approachable name so that it wasn't maybe obviously spiritual. But I really like when things have kind of hidden meanings. And so the temple obviously symbolizes our bodies being a temple of the Holy Spirit, but also that we're able to worship through our bodies. We're able to worship God through our bodies. And then the table aspect was at once the sacrifice of the Mass, of course, but in addition to that's where we gather around a table. So it really combined those things really well, and once we landed on it, it was like there was nothing else that sounded right to me. Really, Temple and Table is an events-based kind of ministry, so I do, talks to parishes or in people's homes or for businesses, and there's always a cooking demonstration or a cooking component in some way. Either people are watching me prepare a recipe and then get to enjoy it together after, or we are cooking part of the meal together. So the events are really structured to be super interactive, and then also I've ventured into some writing, articles, things like that, especially for couple to couple league. And it's been fun to also develop recipes for different projects. So it's just really fun to see where it's evolved over time.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. First off, I just love the name Temple and Table. It is
Thank
such a
you.
good You're right, it is so approachable, it's beautiful. It sounds very aesthetic, but at the same time, it's so rich and it's very deep and it allows for such a beautiful conversation starter. And then what you do with it, I think is amazing.
Thank you.
Just especially the in-person interaction and teaching people what it means to gather and to break bread and to also use that food as nourishment and what does that look like. So that's a perfect segue though into your work for Couple League, your work with writing recipes, your book,
Yeah.
right? We've used your recipe book in a video before. And with your background too in women's health and PCOS and all those sorts of things. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a deep dive into that. Your cookbook about PCOS and nutrition recently came out. Let's talk a little bit about that. What is PCOS, first of all? And how was it that you landed on the passion for writing something that was going to teach women about how to fuel themselves specifically for PCOS?
Yeah, so a lot of my background is is in women's health. And my master's, I think I mentioned, I have a master's in medical science with a concentration in women's health.
Right.
And then working for the WIC program, it started to be integrated there with teaching pregnant women and breastfeeding women how to take care of themselves pre and postpartum. But I honestly had some issues with around my own cycle, and started to really dive deeper, especially as I got more connected to Couple League, because there is such a big tie to nutrition and fertility. And Couple League has always had a nutrition arm, but really when I came on board and we started our partnership, it was really a way to say, okay, there's all of this great information out there for women, but how do they practically apply it to their lives in a really approachable way? So that was just a great fit for me, because that's how I like to approach nutrition. It's like, what does this actually look like? I can hear all I want about what nutrients and all of that, but do you really need to have a science degree to eat well and nourish your body well? So the inspiration around focusing on PCOS was because more and more women are actually being diagnosed with it. It's a really complex hormonal disorder, but gynecologists and healthcare providers are learning more and more about it. And young women, when they're diagnosed with this, or women of any age really, but it can be really daunting, and it can be kind of scary because it can affect your fertility. It can affect your cycle in different ways. And we wanted to make something where there was a really practical way to distill down advice that they were getting around nutrition. So in the cookbook, there's actually a pantry guide where you can have these things in your kitchen already available to you to design healthy meals around. And then the recipes that are included are based off of that pantry guide and what you should already have in your kitchen to just nourish your body well. And what we've found is there's a lot of specifics around things that are recommended for PCOS, and that's all covered in the book, of course. But there's certain like micronutrients. PCOS is also greatly affected by blood sugar, so it's really important for those women to eat regularly so that they don't experience drops in blood sugar, and to also have the right combination of proteins and complex carbohydrates and fats. So there's a lot of different things about it, but we try to make it as simple as possible so that it's super approachable.
That's what's amazing about it, because there is so much information and some misinformation out in the world now. And thank goodness that PCOS is coming more to light and that more doctors are really taking it seriously for women.
Yeah.
Like you said, of all ages, there's really young women getting diagnosed, and it is daunting. And then all the information out there, especially on social media, is just a lot. So I love that you have made something that is like a one-stop shop that is kind of stripping things down to the basics and saying, well, this is what we can start with. And this is just kind of the basics that we already ought to have in our pantry anyway for optimal health.
Yeah.
And kind of building off of that, right? Depending on what each woman needs or what she discovers along with her PCOS. So I love that you've made it so approachable and so practical, because that's my thing too. You could give somebody all the advice, but you're like, well, how do I make a balanced meal then? Like, can you show me an example of what that really looks like so that I can recreate it?
Yeah. And I love that you just brought up too that it's really foundational things. I mean, it focuses on micronutrients that are important for PCOS, but really even if you're not diagnosed with PCOS, it's a really helpful resource, because it just really in the end, they're very healthful recipes that can support fertility in men and women, to be honest, because they're really tasty meals, and they taste good, but they're also really good for you, and they're balanced in those macronutrients, like I said too.
Yes, I can confirm. Good green smoothie. Great. Great. Definitely did a taste test on that one.
Great.
And remind us again the name of the book.
Yes, so it's called Food for Fertility: Managing PCOS, Recipes to Manage PCOS and Improve Fertility.
Okay, awesome. So Food for Fertility.
Yes. That's the
Awesome.
main part. Yeah.
That's the main
Fertility.
part, and then the rest of it comes after.
Yes.
So, out of the Food for Fertility cookbook, what are some of your go-to recipes that you're talking to a woman that has PCOS that you're like, okay, this is maybe one of the first that you should try, or one of your favorites?
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually have a copy of the book with me. There you go. And so I really love there's a smoothie in there called Sunshine. There's sunshine in the name. I love it because it has mango, which I love, and it is just I think smoothies are such a great way to pack a nutritional punch in a super convenient package, And I also really love there's a quinoa stuffed bell pepper recipe in there. And I love that because it's great for meal prep. And you can also serve it at parties in those smaller snacking peppers, which is really fun. Another one I love just because I'm from Florida and it reminded me of Florida is a shrimp with cauliflower rice recipe that's in there. I actually had a friend that I went to college with. We've been friends a long time, and she got a copy of the book, and she said, I just love that. That just reminds me of Florida. She doesn't live in Florida anymore. Food has that power to bring back memories and tastes from travel or different times in your life. So that's probably why I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, you have this, feel like you have these two unique kind of businesses in a sense, right? Or these two parts where you have been able to really blend your passion for nutrition and helping people understand how that impacts your overall health and even PCOS with the cookbook, while simultaneously blending that with Temple and Table, where you're able to help people understand that healthy food doesn't have to taste bad. And
Yeah.
nor does it have to be a party pooper, right? Like, you can serve things other than Tostino's pizza rolls, which, okay, they're nostalgic, I love,
Right.
not dogging on it. But you can serve other things that are going to have really good nutritional value and taste good. You just have to know what to do and how to do it. So I'm a personal trainer and nutrition coach by trade,
Okay.
and smoothies are one of the top things I recommend too because yes, they can pack a nutritional punch, but also for women who might be pregnant and experiencing morning sickness, they're one of the best ways to get in all of those little micronutrients and your macronutrients while being able to stomach something,
Yeah.
especially during that first trimester sickness. I'm always
Yeah.
like, girl, you need a smoothie.
Yeah.
You need a smoothie.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. They're so convenient. You just dump them all in a blender and then enjoy, and you're just fueling your body really well.
And it tastes good and it's refreshing and it's just what
Yeah.
you need when you're not feeling your best.
Totally true. Totally true. Yeah. I'm almost like a proponent of everybody should have a smoothie a day is kind of what I recommend because it's such an easy, convenient thing to start your day with. It starts your body off on a great nutritional step and they're just so convenient.
And not just that too, making sure that women, like when we do have hormonal problems, how important it is to not forget to fuel ourselves too, right?
Yes.
Because food can act as medicine, as you've said essentially.
Absolutely. It's a foundation for how you feel, how you live into your vocation. And I think women especially just we pour ourselves out in relationship. It's just how we're kind of made. And sometimes we just neglect to do that, self-care and check in on our own selves. And food is such a simple way to really do that and to fuel your life, where you can be more present to those relationships that we naturally pour ourselves into. Yeah.
And that's a really good segue into my next questions for you, which is, how have you seen taking charge of your nutrition affect the other parts of your life or your relationships, even through your ministry or the book, your work with CCL?
Yeah, so there's just so many beautiful fruits when people gather around a table. And I've had families that I've done cooking classes with or couples. They've sent me texts of them doing, preparing recipes again that I showed them how, and pictures of their kids around the table, or kids at lunchtime, just spending really beautiful time together. And I think that's always a fruit of the events that I have or I have like a weekly potluck, a weekly dinner that I have with friends in my community. And the conversation can get so much deeper when you're preparing a meal together. That's really what meals are designed for. I think sometimes when we're so busy in our current, times and our current schedules, we just pack our schedules so much. There's so much beauty in just gathering around the table. So I would say just the growth of relationships and that investment and using mealtime, which we have to do it 3 times a day at least anyway, right? We might as well use it as an opportunity to slow down. And actually, we digest so much better. It's like studies have shown that your digestion is actually better. Number one, if you stop and pause and say grace before a meal. Number two, when you're talking, you're naturally chewing slower and you're eating your meal slower, and that helps with digestion. It's also been shown with families that kids have more confidence. They're willing to try more new things, and they have better social skills if they have regular family meals. I mean, kind of the possibilities are sort of endless when it comes to this, because this is what mealtime was designed for. It was designed to build community while nourishing our bodies.
So often the conversation around nutritionists, speaking with, a nutritionist or a dietitian or an influencer, like we're always kind of tying things back to weight loss and healthy body fat percentage. And, and as a coach, like I see a lot of those clients, yes. And then even with PCOS, oftentimes the conversation around nutrition is around weight management and everything, which is good and it's needed and it's beautiful and that is also healthy.
Yeah.
I am really touched by the way you have built such a mindset that you share and that you're passionate about around the communal aspect and around how much that also affects our physical health, but also our interior health. Because, like we said, they can't be separated. Because I've read similar research too that, yes, actually paying attention to the person in front of you while you're having a meal,
Yeah.
like thinking about what they're saying, putting your fork down and allowing yourself to just be present
Yes.
across a steak. Like, that's the best. Or a pot
Yeah.
roast, and you're eating good, nourishing food, but you're also nourishing your soul with that company. And it's not just about the food, it's also about you in relationship, not just to food, but to people.
Absolutely. And think about the things that are plaguing our society today, right? There loneliness, there's depression, there's like loss of identity. These are all things that we can address through community building, and meals are just such a natural way to do it, right? Food is fun, food is approachable. When you're eating and slowing down, like I said, I've seen through events, like especially it's really cool to see it with like when I've worked with youth groups or something like that. I mean, this is a group that's can be hard to reach, or for parents that have teenage, teenage kids. They're running around from friend groups and sports things, and protect mealtime because it's a really powerful tool to connect with people. And especially young people, as much as they might gripe about it, they'll come back and they'll be very appreciative of that time that you took, because in the end they just want to be known. And mealtime allows you the opportunity to ask questions and for them to share.
I mean, we do regular mealtime, and I'm so grateful for it. And I grew up that way, and my husband really didn't. They were like eating whenever, TV in front of the dinner when you can, kind of thing, running up to sports and all that. And I was kind of the opposite. And it is just important too to remember, like, because mealtime can be stressful, right? Trying to get everything on the table and getting the table cleared, and everybody's whining about what they like and they don't, and but not taking that time for granted.
Right.
Is a really good reminder, at least especially for me as a mom of 3 littles, and yeah, I feel very convicted, which is a good thing.
It's worth it. It's worth it. Keep at
It
it.
is.
Even if it can be, the kids are throwing food and all of that, keep at it. And for those with little kids too, involving them in your grocery shopping, in your meal prep where it's age appropriate, it's such a great way to keep them involved and keep them interested in mealtime as well. That's just like a quick tip.
Are there any other kind of self-care tips that you might practice or that you would suggest to people, especially maybe some women who are dealing with hormonal imbalances or issues? They're trying to find root causes. They're doing the nutrition thing. Is there any other kind of self-care tips that you either practice or suggest?
Because, like we've said, we're so connected, body and soul, the first thing that I would say is to have a regular prayer routine. Even if it's, I remember I had a spiritual direction with a religious sister, and I told her that I was struggling to have a daily prayer routine. And this is especially key for moms too, is that you can pray through your work. But she also said, if you're, at the time I was doing a lot where I was cooking a lot and I was in the kitchen a lot, it felt like. And she said, just pick a place where you're at anyway. And she goes, just even if you're just sitting on the floor and you just take time to just sit in your kitchen, if that's where you're at most of all, she said, even just 10 minutes or start with 5 minutes. She said, it's just about being in conversation with God. That's what prayer is. It doesn't have to be anything super complicated. So that's what I would say. Just find even 5 minutes in your day to spend quiet time with God. And then, of course, moving your body is really important for stress management. It helps to balance your hormones. It's been shown in research that it can naturally balance hormones. What I would say is just find an activity you enjoy, right? I like to play tennis. I also got into running a little bit later in life, and what I do is I sign up for 5Ks or something like that because for me, I'm very goal oriented. So I find if I have an end point where I'm training for something, it helps me to just get out there more regularly. A couple of other things come to mind, and this is really important for women that are experiencing hormonal disorders, is our skin is our largest organ. So what we put on our body is almost as important, if not the same amount of importance as what we're putting in our body, in our mouths. So really take stock of where else am I getting exposed to toxins that I don't necessarily need to be exposed to. So really look into, I've been doing like a slow overhaul of my skincare products and my makeup and things like that, because they can have hormone disruptors in them, sadly, and being knowledgeable about that is really important, and going as natural route as you can in that direction. And then the last thing that I've recently gone into is spending time in the sauna. My gym has a sauna. So the infrared sauna, honestly, I go in there I just go in there for like 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes that is where I do my prayer time. So I combine those two things. And I just sit in there and I'm just like, okay, God, let's talk. The benefits of infrared sauna are just, more and more research is being done on it, but it's so relaxing. It's so detoxifying. So if you have access to one through a gym or through something like that, that's just kind of a weird one that I wanted to throw in there because I'm recently into that. So
That's like icing on the cake with the cherry on top, kind of like.
exactly.
I'm like, oh, I wish my man loved a sauna. Come on.
Yeah.
I feel like the sauna, like doing your prayer in a sauna would just be like a big warm hug from God.
That's exactly what it is. It's great.
What's one piece of advice you would give to someone who's looking to live a more fulfilling life, or as we would like to say here on the show, their peak life?
I think that I'm just because I had to pick one thing. I'll
Like,
say,
well, you're giving us a lot of good advice, so I'm really putting you on the spot.
actually, I would say try to learn something new every day. I think it's so easy to, become complacent, especially when we're adults. We learn so much when we're little, and I think it's just really great to stimulate your brain in that way. The best people never stop learning. The most interesting people just are always seeking new knowledge to learn something new every day. So that's what I'd say.
I love that. It keeps us humble too.
That's right. That's right.
Keeps us humble. Well, the first place you guys can go to learn something new is Temple and Table. Go ahead and check that out. And make sure to check out her book too. Make sure to hold it up for us real quick
Oh, yeah.
so everybody can see. Awesome. Food for Fertility, recipes to improve health and manage PCOS.
Yes.
And look at those stuffed bell peppers. Those look
That's
so
right.
good. Awesome, Amanda. Well, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.